Are the Chicago Bulls playing hardball with the Denver Nuggets? And if they are, is it the right move? We're going to dive a little bit in that today. We're also going to take a look at the mailbag, all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And I want to start off with this. So, Casey Johnson mentioned that the Chicago Bulls have no interest in getting back Zeke Najee's deal with his 4 years, $32 million left on that. Well, that's what he signed this offseason. He has 3 years left on the deal. And so when you look at Zeke Najee's contract, yes, it is a bad contract. And I think one thing that is kind of pretty standard across the NBA is that when you're willing to take on a team's bad contract, it means that you get more back, right? Meaning whether there's draft compensation, all those type of things. Now, I will say this. While the contract is bad, and the Chicago Bulls are a team to where, because they don't spend into the luxury tax, every bit of money really counts when it comes down to it. I want to make no mistake about that, right? Is that every bit of the money that the Bulls they have to really think of it all smartly. Now, that doesn't mean that they always do. And we know that the Bulls have some bad contracts on this team. For example, Zeke Najee is only making slightly more, right? $2 million more than Javon Carter. And the Bulls are getting nothing out of Javon Carter's deal. Right. So, so the Bulls already have a bad contract on their roster. And keep in mind, Javon Carter is he's locked into another contract. He has another year of player option for next year, which is another thing. The Bulls got to stop giving out player options because it always bites them in the ass. But he has a player option for next year as well. And unless the Nuggets are willing to take back a bad contract in like a Javon Carter, right, even though in the deal they would also have to take on Torrey Craig, which isn't a bad contract. He's just not playing for the team. He's gotten passed up by younger players. The Bulls are looking at this and saying, do we really want to take on this deal? And how much is that going to tie our hands going forward in other moves that we want to make? And I can understand that from the business sense. From the basketball sense, and basketball is a very unique business, right? And most of the times you don't want to willingly take on bad investments. But in the NBA, taking on bad investments does get you more back. And the Bulls are in a place right now. And this is a big if, right? If the Nuggets are only offering pick swaps in which the Bulls are probably going to have the better pick anyway, then yeah, you're a little bit less likely and less willing to take on a bad contract like Zeke Najee's contract. Now, if by chance the Nuggets are offering anything unprotected, or even let's say that it's highly protected, let's say it's like top 14 protected, that there's a huge chance, more than a likely chance, right, that pick's going to convey because the Nuggets are just too good, right? And the Bulls, when you look at it as well, and when you look at it, compare this with the recent report by Jake L. Fisher. So Jake L. Fisher on the Steinline said this, right? He says the Bulls rebuffed all offers for Caruso at the point that teams around the league didn't think Chicago had any interest to move him up until the Giddey deal went through. The Chicago Bulls front office passed on trading Caruso to the Golden State Warriors for multiple first-round picks and Moses Moody last season at the deadline, which is something new that we've heard. The Sacramento Kings offered number 13 outright for Alex Caruso as well. And the Memphis Grizzlies were willing to part with multiple first-rounders as well before the Bulls said no, and they pivoted to trading for Marcus Smart. And this is the thing that you see with this Bulls team. This Bulls team consistently. Oh, by the way, again, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Houston Rockets love Caruso. So rather than land what would have been a lottery pick, the Chicago Bulls went out or getting Moses Moody and multiple first-round picks, and the picks wouldn't have been amazing coming from Golden State, but, it is what it is. They rather lost in the play-in tournament, and then they traded him for a point guard in Josh Giddey, who I still overall like, but it doesn't really fit with the other players that you already had on this team, so you're having to find ways to make that work where you could have gotten a draft pick, and this is what the important part of not waiting too late to strike is, right? The Bulls turned around and waited into the offseason to move on from Alex Caruso, and they did not get nearly back as much as what they would have gotten had they just went ahead and traded Alex Caruso. And this is why when people are saying, even though I talked about it yesterday, because I like to be fair, I like to talk about all sides of things here. That's just what I like to do. I don't want to just, because if it's only me just talking about just my perspective, it limits it, right? So I want to even talk against my own perspective and things like that. I want to be clear there. That is something that you should do, right? But when you look at the players that were available at number 13, right? And that's what the Bulls would have still had at 11. So we're still walking away with Modest Bucilis. You're talking about players like Carlton Carrington, who's a solid, Jared McCain, Khalil Ware. The Bulls could have walked away with Jared McCain and Modest Bucilis and Khalil Ware, Modest Bucilis and Dalton Knecht, Modest Bucilis and Tristan Da Silva, Modest Bucilis and Eve Missy, who's on the Rookie of the Year ladder right now, right? That's what happens, and I get it. And everything is not guaranteed in the draft, right? In no way is getting more draft picks a guarantee that you're going to turn things around. But not moving on from players at the right time is a guarantee that you're going to get less back. And so when you have people saying things like, no, let's just hold on to Zach LaVine, let's hold on to Vooch, why are we trading these players while they're good? That's why you're trading them. It's because they're good and it gets you something back. The Bulls are winning nothing meaningful now. I hate to tell you guys. Everybody looking at the Bulls, if you're looking at it and say, whoa, the Bulls technically, they're only three games back of being the 5th seed or the 6th seed. Yeah, but they're also only a couple of games back from being the number 12 seed. And that's the definition of being middle of the pack. So while I respect that the Bulls are playing hardball, and it may be something that up until it needs to happen, that they just keep trying to get more out of. Najee is a bad contract. Make no mistake about it. He's a young player, and maybe you can try to convince yourself that maybe there's still some left to uncover and develop there. But as of right now, he's a bad contract. And because of that, it may offer you a chance to get maybe that gives you the leverage rather than balk at taking on the bad contract. Look at it and say, all right, listen, we're willing to take on Najee's contract, but you got to make this pick a little bit more sweeter for us to take on. You just signed him to a 4-year deal. We'll have 3 more years left of bad contract Zeke Najee. And Michael Porter Jr. is cool and all, but that's a bad contract. That's how you negotiate, right? And that's what the Bulls front office has to be better at, is negotiating. You've missed out on every possible positive trade that you could make. Andre Drummond for 2 second-round picks. The Bulls reportedly a year before they actually put him on the trade deadline got offered R.J. Barrett, multiple first-round picks, and a pick swap for Zach LaVine. I think it was another player in there as well. I don't remember, though. The Alex Caruso, now everything that come out of there, the 13th overall pick, and you already had number 11. You balked at that. Right now, one could say that was offered before the trade deadline. Would it have still been 13th? There's some legitimate conversation for that. But let's just say it. That's why I mentioned Eve Missy. Eve Missy was drafted number 21. So even if the Kings getting Alex Caruso changed the trajectory of that pick, let's just say it did, you still had a chance to still get another first-round pick and to add that to your team in a time period where you need young talent. And that is where the Bulls risk. And again, I'm not saying one way is more clear than the other or more certain than the other. It's not. Now, when you are doing things a little bit younger, of course, your mindset kind of changes on that. You know that you're developing things like that. And when you have players that are 30 and veterans now, you, of course, look at that and you're like, hey, we need to win now. So, the mindset changes a little bit as far as just the assets themselves. But the Bulls really got to look. And again, like I said on last night's post-game show, part of the reason why there's so much around this Bulls team is that the protections are there. I think if this was a team or if the Bulls just had their first-round pick outright, you wouldn't be seeing so much about the Bulls needing to trade Zach or trade Vooch to make sure that they can maintain keeping the pick. It's because of the pick that's protected on top of how deep this draft is. It's a combination of those two things that you sit at on why there's such a fever around this Bulls team making a decision to clear that path to keeping that top 10 pick. Will they do it? We still don't know. And as much as I can lay out all the reasons why or why not or whatever else, it still comes back to how AK evaluates this team, right? Because he may very well look at this as some Bulls fans and say, listen, we're 13-16 on the year. We're on pace to win 35, 36-ish games. We're only technically 3 games back of being out the play-in. We can make some moves here. And maybe they can. Maybe they can. But it still all shakes out to this one true fact. And look at it now. The Detroit Pistons are now the 8th seed. Didn't I say that the Detroit Pistons are going to rise up? And now you're looking at Philly, who are 6-4 in their last 2 as well. They have a chance. We'll see, of course, with Joel Embiid and how their health's going to go. But the Bulls really got to take an honest evaluation, and that's the part that scares me the most. I don't know if I trust AK to evaluate things well. I just don't know if I do that. I'm not saying necessarily that I don't in some aspects, but it's not like this blind faith that you just know that they're going to make the right decision because they haven't done it enough. And as if I just did not lay out that Alex Caruso trade enough to all the things that they could have missed, that they missed out on, that could have helped, right? And it's not to say that Moses Moody is a great player. No, he's not. 2 first-round picks, and to take Moses Moody back, though, that changes some things. The 13th overall pick that could have been Khalil Ware, Yves Missy, that could have been these other players that absolutely could have helped and fit in with what this Bulls team is doing. Yeah, I get it. You got Josh Giddey, who was a player that was a starter on a near championship-level team. But that team also had Shea Gilgeous-Alexander on it. That team also had Chet Holmgren on it. The team also had Jalen Williams on it. The team also, it was a deep team. And it had future assets out the wazoo. The Bulls don't have that. The Bulls don't have that future. So we'll see what comes along. Let me know what you guys think on all that down below. As always, let's go ahead and get into these voicemails today. This one's from Reginald.
Hey, this is me, Reginald from Columbus, Georgia, talking about that trade rumor with Denver for a trade proposal, buying Michael Porter for Zach LaVine. And I'm not really in favor of it because I do think Zach LaVine is better than Michael Porter. And while some fans might also think that, even if they don't send Michael Porter over, some people are talking about maybe Aaron Gordon. But to me, I just think if the Bulls hold on to Zach to the offseason, they probably get more. That depends on whether or not he can stay healthy and continue with his efficient play. But another reason why I don't like the Michael Porter deal is because when I look at Michael Porter, I think this is the dude who couldn't stay healthy. He's about as injury plagued as someone like Zion, or maybe as bad as Lonzo Ball was pre the knee injury. So even before that, he was still getting hurt. So are the Bulls willing to take on 2.5 years of a guy who's going to be making over 36 to 40 million per? And without taking back any pick for Zach LaVine, that move makes the Nuggets a contender, but outside of maybe making it work for the Bulls, making it harder to get wins, and making it easier to keep that number 10 pick. But as far as I can see, Michael Porter is the equivalent of Josh Giddey defensively. So having a starting lineup of Giddey, Kobe, Michael Porter, P. Will, and Boots, you might as well just tell teams that, yeah, we're going to let you score 130 and hopefully we can score 131. But a stranger idea came to me that I'm probably going to regret saying. But what about a trade of Lonzo Ball, Kobe White, and, just Lonzo Ball and Kobe White for Michael Porter, and probably throw in the earliest second rounder they can give. It doesn't give Denver exactly what they want, but it gives them offense and defense with Ball and Kobe. So what's your opinion? Thanks.
The Michael Porter Jr. for Zach LaVine trade is something that keeps going around. Listen, here's the thing. LaVine is better than Michael Porter Jr., but that's why the Nuggets want him. And while we can cook up other trades that can make the money work, we got to keep in mind that's not what the Nuggets want. The Nuggets want Zach LaVine. And to get Zach LaVine, you got to do business. And I think we got to stop being afraid of letting go of players just because of the possibility of whatever else. So I get that, other teams want our players because they're good and things like that. Even Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. missed, he's played 75% of the games available for his career. And that's not a great number, but let's be clear here. Over the same amount of time, Zach LaVine's played about the same amount of games. Most of Michael Porter Jr.'s missed games came from his rookie year, and then in 2021-22, where he only played 9 games. Now, he's missed games and had injuries that have banged him up. And then there's also the degenerative back issue that's a concern there for sure, right? But the Nuggets don't want any other player. They want Zach LaVine because where are the Nuggets at right now? When Jokic is off the court, they are not a good team, right? And then Jokic also can make Zach LaVine better. But what does Zach LaVine have to do? He's been a number one on a team where they suck. So with better team around him, with the Aaron Gordon, with the Jamal Murray, with the Russell Westbrook, with the Peyton Watson Wallace, whatever, he has a better chance to make an impact. But that's who they want. They don't want Kobe. They don't want these other pieces, this piecemeal trade that you can put together to make the money work. That's not what they want. So the cost of doing business, if you truly want to change the direction of where your roster's going, is going to be the cost of giving up a player in Zach LaVine who is a good player. And that's just the reality of it. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Larry.
What up, Hayes? This is Larry out of Mobile. This is the strangest beginning of a season that I can remember. We want to keep the top 10 pick as far as, the fans. Now, I'll say this. I'm never one that's going to go into a game hoping we lose. I'm watching every game. Like, okay, let's win the game. If I'm sitting there watching it, I want the team to win the game. I'm not going to root for them to lose. But what I wanted to see was the reason that we won the games was because of the young people. And now it's Zach being in his prime. I mean, he's healthy and he's in his prime. He's still here. Vucevic is having a Cliff Robinson-like recovery. I know Hayes probably remember that when he had that late 30s deal where he just had the best years of his career for some odd reason after being terrible for a couple of years. And just the young guys, Kobe is kind of in the middle there. It's not because of Kobe. Io's doing pretty good. Pat is, we still don't know because now he's coming back from injury. Giddey is, not up in there. But no matter what we do now, I mean, some of these teams below us are trash. So keeping that top 10 pick is going to take some Derrick Rose type draft luck for us. So there's no need to take just to get rid of Zach and Vuce if it's not a good deal at this point. I still want us to try to get the top 10 pick, but if it's not going to happen, there's no point in just trading them if you're not getting good value for them and just kind of seeing where it goes. Then next year, if we get in the off season, they have a good run, then we'll try to go and try to get our draft pick then and just go from that. Now it's more likely we'll make the playoffs than we'll keep the pick. But I appreciate it, Hayes.
I agree with you. Wanted the young players to be the reason why we win games, but that's not it. And that therein lies part of the problem right now for this team. And that's why I always say, what's the cap of this team? Anytime somebody says, all right, yeah, but Hayes, we're right in the play-in. We competed with the Milwaukee Bucks. But Hayes, and I'm like, all right, cool. All right, do you see the Bulls beating that team in a 7-game series? Right? So yeah, the next year's draft isn't as deep. And, that's what I talked about in yesterday's episode is that if the Bulls do convey the pick to the Spurs this year, the one benefit is they own everything outright going forward. Let's say if we don't convert it to the Spurs, then if the Bulls somehow are bad again next year, then they're looking at, well, shit, what if we got to stay in the top 8 now, right? So, the Spurs having that protection. So that is one of the things that gets there. And so the thing is that everything – in this year's draft with the depth, right, the thing is that it lessens the chance of AK getting it wrong, which is still always a chance of AK getting it wrong, right? The Bulls are on pace to win 35 games. So when you say things like, oh, the Bulls may have won too many games already, there are 3 teams with that win total in the top 10 last year, I believe. I think it was 3 teams. So, no, they're not statistically eliminated right now, but via their pace from being still able to keep their top 10 pick, they're just not. And if you do move Zach, if you do move Vooch, it definitely strengthens those chances as well. But like I said, nothing's 100%. And I want to make sure that I do a good job at communicating that. It's not like going into the draft and keep your top 10 pick is 100% that you're going to hit on that pick because it's AK and Eversley. So you got to look at that part of it as well. But, we'll see what they do, Larry. We'll see. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Rob.
What it do, Hayes? It's Big Rob from the West Side. Many blessings to you. Happy holidays, to you and your family. I hope you all have a great holiday. 2 quick questions. Don't want to take up your time, but the first question I have is, I know that we have the Portland Trail Blazers pick. I know that's protected. Is this the last year that is protected? And does it convert into second-round picks? How is that looking? And then the second thing is, I wanted to know from you personally, when you look at the landscape of all Chicago sports, and you see how the Bulls are playing, they seem to be the most exciting team for us from Chicago. The Bears are in purgatory. The Cubs are made like one big move, but they're not really doing anything. The White Sox, we already figured they're going to be in where they're at. The Sky, I hope, can improve on what they did from last year. But I just wanted to know, as a sports fan, when you see all these other teams, unlike New York, in Los Angeles, they're trying to build rosters. They're trying to build championship contenders. If you really think about it, the New York doesn't really have a rebuild. Maybe with the Knicks at one point, but they never really put themselves in a situation where they're always looking for a top 5 pick or something like that to tank. They're always trying to compete or at least try to. And I just wanted to know from you personally, do you just believe that we always are just consistent with just mediocrity and just wanting to just be okay, just being in the middle of a pack? I'm not saying the players are. I'm just looking at ownership and management because I feel like no one's really putting in the effort to just say, let me go all out. Now, I know AK tried with Lamar, DeMar, and it almost did well until the injuries started piling up and they just never recovered. But outside of that, nothing has been good since then. Everything's just been play in and out. And some point you gotta just say something's gotta give. And again, just for you personally, do you think that we're still gonna give AK at least another year or two before we start saying you gotta go? Or do you think he's gonna be here the long haul? Because again, as a Chicago fan like myself, at some point, I'm tired of always being in the middle of the pack. I want to be the leader of the pack, but that's just me. Again, thank you for taking this time. God bless you. Happy holidays.
All right, so the Bulls have the protections on the Portland's first round pick up until 2028 is when we have that. So it doesn't end this year, and I believe that if we don't get it, it just goes away. I thought for a while there that it would convey to a second round pick, but I think I may have been wrong on that. I think it just goes away. But the reason why some teams, like you mentioned, like the New York Knicks, the Los Angeles Lakers, even though the Knicks had a decade plus of sucking and being basically in the lottery, right? But they took advantage of some of those moves that they made to then make moves to get other players. But the thing is that they are willing to spend into the luxury tax. The thing is that LA and the New York, they're always going to be some player that's willing to go there because of the city, right? And unfortunately, the Bulls just have not had it. Despite Chicago being one of the best cities in the world, we just haven't had that same thing. So yeah, ownership is just okay being okay. And that's why I say things like, some Bulls fans are falling to the Jerry Reinsdorfian trap of, oh, this team is close to competing. Let's just keep the course. And yeah, that's actually could be a big struggle for this team. So we got to see what's going to come of there. As far as with AK's tenure, he very well could have another decade plus. Like, it just is what it is. Like, usually when you're in that position and in that job, you get about 15 years at minimum. And that's just the way the Reinsdorfs do it. So AK could be around for a long time, brother. All right, let's get into the last voicemail. This one's from Corn.
What it don't do, King, it's your brother Corn. All right, man, let's get right the fuck into it, man. You know what I'm saying? I am highly irritated. And I'm highly irritated with us. Bulls fan. My great nation, my Bulls nation. We got to stop. Like, we got to stop, bro. Like, I'm a live by the moment guy. Hayes know this. If anybody that's been on here for a while, know I've been on here for a good minute now. They know I am the quintessential live by the moment type guy. I love it. I love those types of things, right? Love the win against Boston, right? But even at that time, I knew not to get caught up in that one fucking game. That one game, I saw so many people in the comment section. I saw one motherfucker say, this motherfucker, Zach LaVine, is the second coming of Michael B. Jordan. Who the fuck? How could you even? Yeah. There's a lot more I want to say. Just frustrating. And we need to stop. We need to chill. Keep course, y'all. Keep course. We know what the fuck this team is, man. Stop trying to build this fucking illusion up in your head of yours to think that this team some way going to be a playoff team. We're going to be fighting for the 4th, 5th, or 6th seed. We're going to be a 40-win team. Get that bullshit out your fucking head, please, please. Cause y'all killing yourselves with the shit. If y'all already know and stay the course, y'all wouldn't be going so up and down, up and down. Like, I literally, the same motherfucker that said, I'm not even gonna call you out, but the same motherfucker that just said, hey man, exactly the second reign coming of Michael J. Jordan. Man, what? That same motherfucker just said, I swear before that motherfucker just said Zach ain't worth a hill of fucking beans pretty much. He ain't shit. In one fucking game. One game made you switch your whole fucking mode. Stay the fucking course. I'm going to stay and I'm going to stay with it all the way to the end. I know what I want. I want these motherfuckers to be traded, and I want the 10th pick. That's it. That's all. There's no, well, maybe if they start winning. No. I know as a Bulls fan, I know what I want from my fucking team, and I want them to trade. Yeah, I wasn't finished yet. And like I said about motherfucking Kobe, yeah. Once I'm cooking, man. Let me motherfucking simmer like I'm in the motherfucking crock pot, okay? So let me get down with this shit. Motherfucking Kobe. I don't I've been saying this shit from the beginning, okay? Yes, we got, not just because of him being, let's not trade him now. The stock is low. Let's not trade him now, but he's going to have that mold. He's going to have that. Trust me, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It might not be coming this month. It might be coming the month of January. Kobe's going to have that time where we're going to be sitting back and be at all. Okay? But let me tell you this. We need to stay at fucking course. Straight the fuck up. We got to get these guys the fuck up out of here. I don't give a fuck. We got to go young. We got to secure the 2025 pick. We got to keep the 2026 and the 20. Like the 2026 Jack is not as deep, but it's top heavy as fuck. AJ Agostina is no fucking joke, okay? But like I motherfucking say, man, we got to stay the fucking course and keep the fucking course and keep just, bro, Bulls fans, please. And we smart. We too smart for this shit. We too smart. We blue collar. We too smart for this shit. But then, so I don't know what the fuck is going on with us. You know what I'm saying? Ever since we booed Jerry Reinsdorf's wife, it just seemed like we just been crashing the fuck out. We ain't fucking Philly. We ain't fucking New York.
First of all, Corn, stop leaving voicemails after you wake and bake, my brother. Stop leaving voicemails after you wake and bake. I know that man right there was reeking. You could tell. You could tell that the trees was loud around that man. No, that's my brother, Corn. But here's the thing. I think some fans are, like I said, are falling for old man Jerry wants them to fall for. It's the fact of, oh my God, we're just right there. Let's not do anything. And it's, you know what? Jerry Reinsdorf is Wizard of the Oz. He is so good at sleight of hand and making people look over there where they should be looking here, right? And that's just what it is. And I've seen, like, it's funny seeing Bulls fans, especially after that Celtics win, go right back into that thinking, and then it's like, where do you think that's going to get us? What do you think that's going to do for us? Where do you think we're going to be sitting after all of this? We're going to be sitting there stuck in the middle of the pack for the next 3 years with what some fans are now like, we just got to keep the course. We got to keep Zach LaVine. We got to keep Vooch because they're playing so good. That is exactly what Jerry Reinsdorf literally came out and said. The thing that you have to sell is hope. Being number one isn't profitable, right? You want to give enough fans enough hope to make you think that you can do something, and then fans are sitting there thinking we can do something and falling into that. Momentary success isn't sustainable, and that's what this Bulls team has continually showed for us. And we've been living in a 4-year span of momentary success, and it's not sustainable unless you just want to keep staying in the middle. And that's where the Bulls are. So here's the thing, though. I do want the pick as well, but I can say this. The Bulls can get the pick and still fail because AK going AK. And that's just the reality of it, right? There's always a chance of AK doing something wrong or thinking he's the smartest person in the room and then failing again. And then where are we? So that's another question the Bulls have to answer, but we'll see where we go, Corn. Stop waking and baking. No, just keep waking and baking. Just let it sit for a second before you call in. Love you, brother. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. That's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See Red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.